Hey everyone, I am TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host,
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
and welcome back to the BunchaJokahs podcast, where we talk Nintendo news, and specifically, we like to talk Xenoblade news. And oh boy, we've sure got some of that. X is coming up soon, like 2 months away now, which is insane. You
Yeah.
hyped, Kai?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think this was a game that myself, as well as many others, didn't really get to have a full experience with because of a combination of, being on the Wii U and the UI
Yeah.
and it being a bit clunky and the online not really being a good opportunity to take advantage of. I feel like there were a lot of factors that stopped a lot of people, including myself, from making the best use out of the game. And then now it's on the
Hmm.
Switch, it's like, oh, wow, okay, we can just actually play the game properly now. That's good. So I'm very much
Yeah.
excited for it.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this game, get the recognition it deserves, get some improvements to make it more up to scratch with some of the recent games and remasters. And that's sort of what this discussion is going to be. Is we're going to start off just talking about our general impressions of our own experiences with Xenoblade X back on the Wii U, back through the build up to this one, and sort of how much we've played. Because to be frank, we can't do like an analysis video to the level we did for like Xenoblade 3. Neither of us have that level of familiarity.
Yeah, true.
So
It probably had more
instead,
of an idea of Xenoblade 3's plot than Xenoblade X's in a way. Even though we
oh
haven't
yeah,
played
yeah,
the 3 yet.
100%. So this is more going to be like our sort of laying out like our experiences and our connection with Xenoblade X, and then we're going to talk about what we do think of the recent trailer, any sort of theories we might have based on our limited knowledge, and we'll just see how that goes. But let's just start things off. I'll hand it over to you, Kai. What's your Xenoblade X experience then? Experience. It's a pun there
It's
somewhere.
very good, isn't it? So I remember this game. I remember like the lead up to it when they showed off the skills and all of that, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's so cool!"
Hmm.
And keep in mind, I was like maybe 14, 13 at the time, even.
Oh,
Um,
aging me, Kai.
yeah, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's so cool!" So I sort of saw all of that. I got it for Christmas the year it came out, and I was like, oh man, really hyped. I played it for like almost all of Christmas and then the 2 days after that as well, just like non-stop.
Hmm.
And it was a good time. I was often confused and like spent a lot of time running around just getting killed by level 80s. But it was a good time nonetheless. Again, at that age, I hadn't really reached the point where I try and comprehend everything that's happening in a game. At that time, I was still very much like I was the kind of person that would play Lego Star Wars and just get no mini kits through the entire game. I was that kind of person. So I kind of just confused myself through the first part of the game for 3 days. I loved the hell out of it. And then I got told off for not spending time with family for those 3 days. Felt really bad. Didn't really get back into it after that. I tried getting back into it every now and then, but I just struggled because I was stuck on stuff that I just found like I was kind of
Hmm.
bored with it in a sense. Like there was a dungeon that was really hard, and then there was a boss that was really hard. And obviously, the normal thing to do would be go and do some quests because I hadn't done that many. But 14-year-old me did not have the patience for that and just kept throwing myself into it, and then was like, actually, I'm just going to play other things that can give me instant gratification. So after that point, again, I kind of went back to it occasionally, but couldn't properly get back into it after playing it for a couple of days. And that's about it. Like, I've come back to it on stream every once in a while, but even then, I've just
I
been
was
sort
gonna
of wandering
say, yeah.
around.
I mean,
I haven't
you.
really had much founding for what I've been doing. I haven't been following the plot.
Hmm.
So that's kind of most of my experience with it from off the bat. I didn't really ever enjoy the online because I just felt like it got in the way. Everything else in the game was fine. I just didn't fully think about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Also,
I
I
mean,
will add as a note, I chose the Pathfinders division, the ones that get bonuses from all the data probes, just because I liked doing the data probes. That was really satisfying to me. So
see,
that's
I
my
can't
experience with
even.
it.
I can't even remember what I picked for that. Jeez, like the last time I saw anything X was probably when you streamed it, and that was
Yeah.
just you going back. You actually did some like story progress, but
Mm.
completely out of context because it'd been like what 8, 5, 7 years since you played it last. So probably not the best way to actually get back into it. It was more of a meme than anything else, right?
Yeah, it
So,
was.
but that's it. I also got it at launch, and well, not launch, a little after that Christmas, and I liked Xenoblade 1, but even back then, I wasn't good at it. Like, I barely beat Xenoblade 1, powering through the story. It was my first RPG, I think, really. Maybe I dabbled in a tiny bit of Pokemon before then. So it wasn't something I was overly familiar with. And X came along not long after the 3DS port of 1. So this was my first time as like a full-on Xenoblade fan, getting hyped for it, getting excited for it. But when it came to playing it, like, yeah, I was still crap. I had no bloody clue what I was doing. And part of that is my fault. Part of that is just due to the game not being overly good at explaining it itself, which we will come back to later, But somehow, like, it took me 6 months, but I did beat the game. I remember coming home I was in my A levels, which is like exams here in the UK when you're like 17, 18, and I did my final A level exam, came home and beat Xenoblade X somehow. That was probably my better achievement of the day, to be honest with you. But I actually had to like sacrifice all my skills in the process. They all blew up during the fight or something like that. It was a
That's
mess. But yeah, like that, it was fun. Like it was, and it's very different to Xenoblade 1 in that how it's got this, this crazy open world which we haven't really seen before, and it's still impressive even when we've got the likes of Breath of the Wild. Like it's still unique in how you can fly around it with a scale, drive around it at different areas, and we're getting more of that. So yeah, like I loved this game a lot. It was really fun and fascinating, but I never really got to understand it. And Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition gave me that chance. That was the first time I was able to play that game and be like, okay, I understand mechanics, I understand the way
Yeah.
different characters interact. I actually did most of the side content, and X, as you know, is like 80% side content. So given the chance to basically bring X up to the scratch with 1, 2, and 3 and my expertise in those, like, it's a golden opportunity. We've been wanting it for years, to the point where we basically given up it happening. But here we are, new trailers looking good, and I guess just what's like a major thing you noticed from the new trailer, Kai? There's probably some obvious ones, but what's a big standout to you?
I do want to note quickly from your story is I never mentioned
Oh,
I
yeah,
never
yeah.
I've never used a scale still. I never got that far in the
Of
game.
course, yeah. Yeah, that's a
like the
pretty
whole thing I
major
was hyped
mechanic.
for.
And I guess I forgot to mention the online multiplayer, which I didn't even realise was a thing when I played the game. Like, I knew that your friends' avatars showed up in your hub and you could recruit them, but I didn't know there was actual multiplayer on there that you could do. So it's going to be new experiences for both of us there.
Yeah. So yeah, as for the trailer, I mean, a lot of it, it's going to be the same game in most ways. The first thing you notice is obviously the graphics, right? Of course, it's a remake; it's going to be like that. The graphics do look better. I will say the increase for this isn't as drastic as Xenoblade 1 to Definitive Edition for that, obviously. Because this was a newer game in a sense. But I think the overall graphics still do look good. I like how they look now. It's
The
just
faces
a
go a
general
long way.
upgrade. Yeah, especially with some of the character sprites. The characters look a lot more defined than they did before.
Definitely.
So that's all very good. And then obviously the biggest thing, one of the biggest roadblocks to X that has now been resolved, is the UI. The UI looks significantly better. They show a lot of it off, like the battles where they make the different effects clearer. The arts are just a bit bigger. The text is a lot bigger for everything. They have the quest markers out now. Like, everything just is a lot clearer. And although I do think it sacrifices a little bit of the style that the original had, it's more than worth it because now you can actually read. So it's a good change.
It looks a bit more cookie cutter, like clean slated, sort of not generic exactly, but it's very basic now, I guess, compared to like the style that I had before. But it keeps up enough of that, and it's a worthy sacrifice, like you say, for actually being able to read it. Because, oh boy, text for ants, especially on like a handheld device this time around, So that's going to be a long way. And just looking like we don't know for sure how much of this, but it looks like they're going to be getting better at tutorials as well. The fact that we see an entire like overdrive sort of text on the side of the screen that you can collapse if you want, but telling you the exact mechanics of it. Because I never knew anything about overdrive other than spam. That's all I did.
Yeah, same.
I think that's what 90% of people did, to be honest with you. It's just cool music, spam arts. So, granted, again, it's been... When did I last play it? It was probably like 9 years ago. I think I beat it in 2016. So, I've forgotten a lot of it, but I don't think there was anything to forget in terms of my knowledge of the game. So, being able... A combination of it laying it out clearly for you and me now having several RPGs under my belt to sort of understand mechanics a bit more means hopefully I can get through things a little bit more competently this time. It's given you more options at the very least, so I appreciate that much.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this trailer, I'm just looking at one of the bits where I believe overdrive is active, and like it's still very confusing, but I'm glad that it's a lot clearer in terms of just like, for example, it has the color combo guidance. And it's like, I have no idea what that is, really. I'm guessing it's the arts. It's all kind of coming back to me, but it's just nice to have it all clear there now. It's like, this is how it works. I think it's going to be a really interesting one to come back with now. So,
I think it would benefit them if they took a page from Xenoblade 3, which had like, where you could like practice different bits. If you couldn't remember a mechanic or a gameplay thing, you can enter that tutorial mode where it specifically makes you do bits step by step, which I never really used because I sort of got to grips with it. But X seems a little bit more intimidating, so I feel like it's the kind of game that would benefit from something along those lines, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
I guess to talk a bit about, most of the trailer, to be fair, was just story cutscenes from the previous game. That was sort of the gist of it. So there's not a whole lot new, except maybe new to Kai, who never beat it, I suppose. Yeah. But interesting, because it was sort of separated. At the end, the final 30 seconds of the trailer were the new content, the new epilogue, which we'll get to in a little bit. But even in the stuff that was the main game, it looked like there were some new characters and content sprinkled throughout that. One of which was a character who we both thought looked like someone straight out of Final Fantasy XIV, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like uncanny. Yeah. Now, interesting. There's not really anything I can say much about her, except that there's a recruitable character in the original game called, I think it's Celica, who you can get. And this new character seems to have the same sort of animal-like ears as her. So maybe they're connected somehow. But I'm not going to lie. I know people love her. I never got Celica in the main game. She's optional. She's like an optional recruitable character. Okay. And I didn't get 90% of the optional characters. So I don't really know what the deal is there. I'm guessing you're the same.
Yeah, I've got absolutely no idea who most of the characters in this trailer are. One thing I'll say is, one of the big reasons I didn't carry on playing X and finishing it, I really am not a fan of the story. Even the bits... I know that it gets better. I've read some summaries, and I do think some of the ending stuff is quite good. I think it's actually very interesting near the end, really, really good content. But the start especially, and until you get to that late game interesting stuff, I don't like alien plots. And to be honest, to a certain extent, I don't like sci-fi plots either. I don't like plots that are just really high technology type stuff, like robot fighting and whatever, and I don't care about alien fighting either. And considering this game is basically robots versus aliens, it's it's a little, it doesn't hit me as much as the more fantasy aspect of the other Xenoblade games that then sort of expand into being sci-fi and whatever else. This is just aliens and tech from the start, and I don't think it's bad in any way. It's just not something for me. So I really struggled with the story for that reason, even though I should have just pulled through. Again, 14-year-old me didn't quite have the sort of persistence on that one. But it is looking good. Like you say, some of these new characters are interesting. The Final Fantasy looking one is it's a very funny way to put it, but it is true. It's a very stark thing. I'm very interested to see how much of this is going to be in the main game and how much of it will be this post-game story, because they've already said that it's going to be a new post-game story. There's a character in there who some people have likened to, I think, a Xenogears character, although Xenogears fans will stretch to anything to try and relate stuff to the Xenoblade series, so take it with a grain of salt. I don't know. I'm very interested to see where it goes and what kind of new stuff there is and whether they relate it to the main series or not, because one of the skills near the end looked particularly reminiscent, didn't it?
Yeah, I'll get to that one in just a sec. The only one I want to mention before then, that we saw back in the main game, is the character who they named... It's actually, they posted to Twitter about it, in like a new scale. The scale's called Hreisvelg. It's something like Norse mythology related. I can't pronounce it. But it's like the all-white one, and the character in like a big white mask that almost looks like Nier Automata sort of vibes. But they're interesting.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, if they're going to be significant to the main game and the post-game, or if they're just like a new recruitable character for the main game. The way their scale takes off, it looks almost more like a jet engine kind of thing. So maybe it's just like a bonus faster scale you can get or something along those lines. It's kind of unclear. But like they have like a cool like Japanese sword like weapon it describes it as, and yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, very curious one. I do wonder what the deal with that will be. Like maybe it's just a new main game thing, because I could very well could be wrong on this, but I seem to recall that there are some characters and side quests that are only in the Japanese version of the game. I know this isn't one of them, but I think there are some of those that are like that, or maybe they were DLC. I really don't remember. And maybe this is kind of like that, where they're basically just adding in new characters that might be interesting, that maybe will cut content or something, and this could be one of them where it's like, hey, we wanted to do this storyline, we can do it now, I guess. So yeah, I think it could be that.
It might be more akin to like, getting Ino and Masha in Xenoblade 3 as like bonus heroes. I guess alternatively, if it connects to the later game stuff, it could be almost like I guess Persona 5 Royal kind of thing, where here have Kasumi as a new character sprinkled throughout the main story, but most of the stuff is in the epilogue. Like they could do something like that, but I kind of get the vibe of just like new heroes is if I had to, put money on it, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So it's looking good.
It is, and then we get to the actual new game stuff. It's sort of what seems to be like a future connected style epilogue we're getting here, especially because we won't spoil it here, especially because Kai hasn't beat it, but the main game does end on a cliffhanger, and it seems like we're going to be addressing that in some capacity. And as you mentioned earlier, Kai, yeah, them scouts sure do look like Ouroboros, don't they?
Yeah, the new one is very distinctly like one, as in it has the circular core thing in its chest.
Yeah, and
it's
I have seen
that's
people...
just Ouroboros, that's Noah's.
Yeah, exactly, and I have seen people point out that it is actually concept art for X, so the Ouroboros themselves are probably based on what was originally concept for X. So who knows? It could just be a thing like Niel's design was based on concept art from Nia, I believe. Just bringing it back. They do that sometimes, but it's so distinctly uncanny. And the weird thing is, I might be reading it too much, but the little bit we see of it in the trailer, we see someone piloting, presumably a good guy, piloting what looks like sort of a white Ouroboros scale with like a the Ouroboros colour inside, sort of purpley. but we see them fighting enemies who also look like Ouroboros, but they're a bit more deeper red purple, more like Mobius color, kind of almost. As like bad guys. I'm guessing whatever they are is going to be the new faction of bad guys you're fighting in this DLC, this epilogue. But again, like you kind of don't want to say, oh, this is going to connect all three games together and it's going to be some wild thing, because remember when we all thought that about Xenoblade 1 Future Connected, which it didn't. I mean, like in hindsight, there's some connections, but very vaguely, you know. So it's hard to say, isn't it?
One. Yeah, it's a very difficult one. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, of course, the question is, who is that the pilot who got out of it because they didn't show the face? And I mean, it could be a fake out, but generally when they don't want to show the character's face, that's because it's of interest. I don't feel like if it was a new character with a new face, they would hide that. So that's kind of what's making me think maybe it's not directly linked to everything else, but maybe it's like a character from X who died or something. You know, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Because it's just a very strange one to me. So I'm very interested to see what they do with the epilogue. I think that's going to be a big old focus. I mean, the other aspect of the DLC, I think it's the DLC. Yeah, I keep saying DLC. You know what I mean? Post game.
Epilogue, post game.
Yeah, epilogue. I keep saying DLC. I don't mean that. Is they've got this new big
thing.
area, the green area, and immediately I looked at that and I was like, isn't this like Green Hill Zone Sonic Frontiers or something?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like it looks like that.
It's actually just copied and pasted. They have a deal with Sega. Did you not? Are you not aware of that, Kai?
I just looked at it and I immediately thought that. I was like, isn't this Sonic Frontiers? Wrong game, wrong footage.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I'm very interested to see what this new land is, because it looks to be quite big. Like lots of different areas to explore. You know, I wonder what the story will be alongside that too. So yeah, even more of interest.
Yeah, it seems to be like, and if this is any actual connection to Xenoblade X stuff, like neither of us have the real knowledge to pin that down. But it seems like there's loads of like floating islands around some sort of giant central structure, what looks like some kind of alien structure. So who knows? It could be to do with like their search for like the Lifehold kind of thing, you know, continuing bits from the main story. It could be some new alien threat. I really don't think it's going to be anything wild like Connection Rise, even in spite of like the Ouroboros looking scales and that, which I do think are going to be important to it, because they have like a line about like this new scale led us here to this place, or they have something about like a scale leading them, which I'm assuming is that new one. But as to what connection it could have to the main game, I don't have a clue other than it just looks cool.
Yeah, pretty much on the same.
Yeah. I'm wondering how big it is, because on the one hand I feel like, you know, it's not DLC, it is an addition. So I feel like we're probably getting future connected style game, you know, maybe like 10 hours extra or something. I wouldn't expect a huge 30-hour thing here or anything. But then also, you know, Xenoblade X, inherently with it, the way that its game works is, you know, you travel through the overworld really quickly. You have scales and all sorts. So it's got to be somewhat huge if you're using scales in this new place, right? Which we didn't technically see outside the cutscenes. But I can imagine it being quite expansive.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Like, it's not going to be a whole new game or anything. I think my question is this going to lead on to a sequel, or is this rounding out the story? You know, I'm really curious to see, like, what impact it will have for what's next on top of this. Because, you know, like I say, if Future Connected was anything to go by, then who knows, honestly. I think they might be putting this out there to kind of feel out whether an X2 is feasible or not, because obviously sequels tend to sell worse. X already didn't sell well off the bat. Like, I wonder if they're going to find out whether it's going to be salvageable or not. I'm really curious.
No, that's a very good point. It will definitely, I think, indicate something to the future of the, if not like story-wise, the series, to like what games they make in the future, and more if they do more spin-offs, more X. It could just be the case of it could be as simple as the original game ended on a cliffhanger. They just want to finish the story, and like, okay, this epilogue could just be literally finishing the story of Xenoblade X because it was kind of unfinished, and that's it. But like you said, I didn't even consider the option. Yeah, like of course. I mean, if there's money in it, they're gonna make more. It could be very much franchisable, and I suppose we would be remiss if we didn't mention that Future Redeemed even has like a little few X like mentions. Like it's vague, it's barely, but they have hinted at like connections deeper in the past, so it's not impossible that they continue building up connections with the main series in tiny ways, or just doing entirely new stuff with the X spin-off series.
Yeah.
It's impossible to predict what the crazy people at Monolith Soft are thinking, but I'm just glad that we're seeing it, because like I said before, it felt like we all, when the Switch came and they were having like his Tropical Freeze remastered, his Super Mario Bros. Were like, oh, Xenoblade X, right, obviously. Didn't expect them to take 7 years to do it, but hey ho, it's coming now.
Yeah, it's here now, I guess, while they're working on who knows what else they're working on at this point, like... It's gotten, actually, It's quite funny, it's gotten to a very similar point to the Phoenix Wright series, where it's like, okay, they've released all their main games, they've finished their trilogies, all the side games are out, the main games are remade appropriately, the side games are now remade appropriately, like... Everything they have at their core has now been made and remade to an apt level, so it's like they've basically got now a new step to take, both series. So I'm really curious, and I just thought that was an interesting comparison to draw, because it's like such a similar situation to find both series in right now.
No, yeah, that's true. It's sort of they've got to sort of make a step one way or the other now, and it's unclear where it's going to be. I mean, of course, we say it every single time. I'm going to say it again. Xenoblade Warriors. I know that wouldn't be Monolith Soft making it, most likely, but still, that's the easy next step to keep us going while they figure things out.
Yeah, true.
But either way, yeah, this is looking great. And I guess one other thing I'll mention is in the if you look on the Japanese website, there are new hair designs we see. We see like for the custom character. One based on Mithra and one seemingly based on Nia, which is kind of cool. I feel like it would be weird to have two based on Xenoblade 2 and not have like one based on 3 or something, but
yeah,
maybe there'll be extra ones. I don't know if that's a full set. We haven't seen the male options, so maybe just like a Noah haircut or something like that,
I think that would work. Yeah, I can see that being the case. It's nice to have those extra options.
Yeah, it's cool they're adding in a few bits, and the fact that they added those does make me wonder if we sort of theorised, but if we might get like a new classic voices for the custom characters, like Harry McIntyre as one, and can't remember Mio's voice actress or something like that as another one, or Sky or someone, anything like that. Or even like things like costumes, like here have some Rex inspired outfit or that kind of thing. It's nice that they seem to be doing those little small references outside of story stuff just for fun, because I always appreciate, especially in a game with a custom character, being able to have those little Easter eggs as such.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, and I don't know, I feel like that's mostly it. I don't think with our knowledge we can say much more or theorise much more. I suppose, is there anything you want from Xenoblade X Remaster that they haven't shown yet, Kai? Anything that comes to mind we've yet to see?
I think I'm mainly very interested in how the online's going to work, because obviously we all have the ability to make better use of this now. And I mean, I hardly even know how it works in the original, of course, but that aside, I'm curious how it will work here, how they'll implement it, and I just hope that that's like a good time. I think that would be good. And yeah, apart from that, I think it will just be good. Like the UI and the usefulness of the game seems to have gone up, especially with quest markers. So I'm just looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun to just sink our teeth into and have a good time with. Obviously, we're not going to have as much to say about it as the main series. We won't be doing like 17 analysis videos and then 10 review videos like we did with Xenoblade 3, but we'll definitely be discussing it more in the future, I'm sure, when it comes out, and if we do get any more info. So it's all just looking like pretty good so far. It's nothing too crazy.
Yeah, it's good that they've clearly listened to the complaints, from the new UI to the fact they're adding an epilogue to the story to wrap things up. It's clear that they knew what the problems were with the original game and then taking steps to improve it. Xenoblade 1 was such a great remaster, like Definitive Edition. It literally, almost like no notes, fixed every problem I had with the original. So I have no doubt that they can do this here with X. And heck, I know it kind of seems dumb, but I wouldn't mind a Switch Xenoblade 2 remastered Definitive Edition on the Switch too, because that game has things they could tidy up. We could get into it with field skills and stuff, but they've been so good at each Xenoblade game, getting better and better, at least in terms of quality of life kind of stuff. So it seems to just be continuing. And I think the
main thing is just it exists. Yeah. That's crazy to me. Xenoblade X exists.
Yeah, it's that crazy world. Be able to play it on your tiny little Switch screen. It's gonna be a blast, and we will talk about it more when it comes out. Not as much as the main games, but we'll definitely have some content on it. And that's about it then. So for now, I suppose we'll just say goodbye. Kai, where else can people find you at?
Twitch.tv/Fascurreyn. I'm pretty much done with Ni no Kuni now, to be honest. So it's done now. I'm doing some random bits. Yeah, it's a good time.
Absolutely, and you can find me on twitch.tv/TheChosenOneLegend, streaming the Cosmic Shake and soon to be Zero Escape series. Is that the name? I always forget the name.
Zero Escape.
Is that right? Yeah, I got it right. Anyway, links to both of those in the description below. And as well to our friend Samm, who's our thumbnail guy, our graphic designer. He won't be playing Xenoblade X because he hasn't finished Xenoblade 3 yet, but get on him on it. And we will see you guys in the next video. Take care and goodbye.
Goodbye.